All right, after another incredibly fun weekend of NBA basketball, we are back with another episode of the Young Man Squad Fantasy Basketball Podcast, which is part of the Old Man Squad Sports Network, part of the Believe Network, and presented to you by our partners at FanDuel. I'm your host, as always, Noah Rubin. We've got, believe, 10 or 11 players. 11 players to talk about today. How you should value them in Dynasty. Some of these players, it's, hey, they're playing much better. Hey, they're filling in well as an injury replacement, or they just played for the first time this year, and we want to get a good idea of what that means. So like I said, 11 players to talk about. We will go ahead and jump into things. We're going to start in Atlanta. We're going to talk about Jalen Johnson. This season's averaging 21.8 points, 9.6 rebounds, 6.3 assists, 1.8 steals, 1.1 threes per game. The points, assists, and steals are all career highs, shooting 58.7% from the floor, 80.7% from the line. Both of those the best marks of his career. Obviously seeing more usage than ever before with no Trae Young. A lot to like about what we've seen so far this year. Obviously, he had that monster game. 31 points, 18 boards, 14 assists, 7 steals, 4 threes. The points, rebounds, assists, and steals all career highs. The threes matched a career high. Shot efficiently. The Hawks have won 5 games in a row. Dramatic comeback against the Suns on Sunday. Jalen Johnson was a guy, I believe, preseason. Actually, I had these here so I can verify. I had 11th preseason in my Dynasty rankings. Again, the big conclusion here is to not dramatically change rankings just this quickly. It's been almost a month, so it's a good time to evaluate, but we're not going to drastically change things or try to not drastically change things unless we feel led to. The 2 players I had above Jalen Johnson were Amen Thompson at 10 and Chet Holmgren at 9. I think I would have to consider bumping Jalen Johnson up to 9 with how we've seen him play thus far. And I think a potential Trae Young trade could really accelerate things to have Jalen Johnson bump up. I wouldn't move him past Anthony Edwards, Evan Mobley, anybody above that. Maybe a reevaluation of Cooper Flagg could alter his dynasty ranking, but I don't think that that's what we need to be doing. After a slow start for him, he's starting to pick things up a little bit. Probably won't adjust rookies in dynasty rankings too much because we expect them to play bad. So, really impressive what Jalen Johnson has done so far. Definitely, I've tweeted about this. I talked about this on Q&A last week over at Roto World. The Hawks defense without Trae Young feels like it's better than the Hawks offense with Trae Young at this point. And that the defense or the offense without Trae Young is better than the defense with Trae Young. If that makes sense, if you're following me. Basically, in the past, yes, Trae Young has never been a good defender, but he was so good offensively that it made up for any, lack of defensive impact or defensive lapses. Just don't think that's the case at this point. I think this is a good enough team defensively and a truly elite defensive team when Trae Young isn't playing. And they have enough offensive options. With that being said, Trae Young still, when healthy, at least a top 10 offensive player in the league. And when he's playing well, like at his best, top 5. There's an argument to be made that it's been a little while since we've seen that, and it certainly wasn't that to start this season. So we'll see what the Hawks end up doing. They didn't sign him to an extension, gives them a little bit more flexibility to decide what they're going to do with him. Let me see, because he didn't sign the extension. Let me just verify this instead of just talking to see how much longer he's under contract. So he has a player option for next season. Nobody's going to decline $50 million. I think that there's certainly a chance that the Hawks explore trades. That opens things up for more usage for Jalen Johnson, or continued this level of usage. Don't know what a Trae Young trade package looks like. It depends. I think every team would value him pretty differently. Some teams probably don't want to give up assets to acquire a player that's a negative on defense. Some teams may just say, hey, this dude's good enough offensively. We want to send a lot. No idea what that looks like. But I think that the success of Jalen Johnson recently makes it something the Hawks have to truly explore for the first time. Like in the past, it was, well, I guess we could look at this, but like we'd probably just be re-entering a rebuild if we trade him. But now it's like, okay, I mean, I don't think that they're, without Trae Young, like a top 3 team in the East, but they currently are tied with the Cavs for 3rd in the East. I don't think that they're better than the Pistons, Knicks, or Cavs. And then obviously when the Celtics and Pacers have their superstars, I don't think that the Hawks just taking Trae Young out of this lineup are like that they're better than them. But the early success is encouraging. Jalen Johnson, fantasy superstar, borderline superstar. We'll see him if he can do this for a little bit longer before we actually give him that tag. And we're going to stay in Atlanta, not just because I'm a Hawks fan, but because I think it's worth talking about Onyeka, Okongwu, and then probably also beat Krejci. I just think it's worth it. So Okongwu the other night, when Jalen Johnson was in the middle of his record-setting night, Okongwu had 32 points, 11 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, career high 8 threes. This was the second of the back-to-back, so no Kristaps Porzingis. That's when Okongwu has been able to start this year, only 5 games, but he's been pretty good in all of them. But these last 2 are his best, because then Kristaps Porzingis misses their last game with a knee injury, coming off, I mean, it was 2 days in between games, so it would have been, for him, like 3 days rest. Wasn't able to play, so worth keeping an eye on for redraft leagues. But for dynasty leagues, we got another look at Okongwu as a starter. 27 points, 4 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and 3 threes. He's not just a, hey, this guy can hit threes anymore. It's, hey, this guy's gonna shoot threes, and he's gonna hit threes if you leave him open. Like he's actually playing in like a true stretch 5. The last 2 games, kind of all season, but definitely the last 2 games. Interested to see if that's something he can keep up, because to me, Okongwu was, hey, this dude can be a fantasy stud as the 5-man for Trae Young, catching lobs, just doing what Onyeka or Clint Capella was doing, except he is a little bit more polished offensively. Maybe not quite as good as Capella as a rebounder, not quite as good as a defender, at least as a help defender, but really like a good player, especially for fantasy basketball. But without Trae Young, he's been able to have some really solid games and then 2 monster games. So really interested to see how this continues. I had him 48th preseason. Definitely should be on the rise. Though looking at the players I had in front of him, it's going to be, it looks like I already had him pretty high. And I don't know how much higher I'm going to be able to bump him. So interesting. But maybe everyone else just bumps him up closer to where I had him inside the top 50, because it probably wasn't consensus to have him there without remembering that date off the top of my head. But really encouraged by the last couple of games for him. Interested to see how that continues, because good chemistry with Jalen Johnson. I don't know that the Hawks would quickly explore trade. Like, it doesn't make sense to trade Kristaps Porzingis. I saw a report, not saying this was like from a great source, but there was a report that they could look to trade Kristaps Porzingis. There was also previous reports that they were looking to get him like a longer term contract. He's going to be a free agent after this year. Kristaps Porzingis is, so any situation in which he's not back, which is entirely possible, even if there is mutual interest, Okongwu becomes a starter. Dynasty value skyrockets. This is what it was pre-Hawks trade for Porzingis. Value for Okongwu, which was really high, went down because of the trade. great opportunity to buy in. And now that's probably behind us at this point because he's been an absolute stud. And I just really quickly want to mention the Krejci. I don't want to spend a ton of time on him, but he's a player that was able to play well last season down the stretch for the Hawks with all their injuries. This year, he's been even better. Like, dude doesn't miss. It's pretty crazy. He's been on fire from deep. If you're watching, you can see on the screen the 72.1% true shooting percentage, 48.1% on threes this year, averaging 11.1 points and 2.6 threes in 21.1 minutes per game. Had the game where he hit 8 threes, scored 28 points, followed that up with 11 on 3 threes, and the next game 20 and 6 threes. His role's going to fluctuate a little bit. If he has a hot hand, he might get a little bit more minutes, but only was able to get back in the rotation because of injuries and really took advantage. So really cool to see. I had him just inside my top 300 preseason. Definitely going to be bumping up, not dramatically higher, but like still outside the top 200, probably still outside the top 250. But a guy that should be valued higher on the rise. So encouraging to see. And now we will stop talking about the Hawks and we will talk about other teams. Kel'el Ware is the next player that I want to talk about. Without Bam Adebayo in the lineup, he's been good. And I think that there were some legit question marks about him. I mean, he was good as a rookie when he moved into the starting lineup, was in the starting lineup at times this year, but got bumped back to the bench when he was starting, wasn't playing starters minutes, was just kind of weird. Let's see. First start without Bam was not good, but and then he had, so that was 7 points, 6 boards, 3 blocks, and a steal. 3 blocks is nice. Followed that up in just 23 minutes, 9 points, 12 boards, a steal, and 3 blocks. Last 3 games is really where he's shined. 14 points, 20 boards, a steal, and a block. Then 15 points, 13 boards, a steal, and a block. Then 15 points, 10 boards, a steal, and 3 blocks. Not easy matchups either. 2 against the Cavs and 1 against the Knicks. So that during that 3-game stretch, 14.7 points, 14.3 boards, a steal, 1.7 blocks. Really good shooting splits. Still only 21 years old. A lot to be encouraged about from his last couple games. I had him 94th preseason. Frankly, this hot stretch is nice. I'd probably have him ranked pretty similarly, maybe bumping him up a little bit. But I do think this is a really encouraging stretch from Ware. Just to see him play well with no Bam out on the floor. Unfortunately, we're probably, like, as long as Bam's there, he's going to be out there, like on the floor as often as possible. So this isn't like a situation where, okay, this guy is playing really well when the starter's out, and there's going to be scenarios in the future where the starter's going to be out often or the starter's going to be on a different team. Like, I just don't see that happening with Bam. Like, I think he's probably a Heat lifer. So we're not just waiting for a passing of the torch here, but talented enough that this guy's got a very bright future and is going to be able to contribute right now. So that's pretty cool too. All right, next up, we've got a pair of Pistons to talk about. Not the typical Pistons that we talk about either. So that's kind of fun. Paul Reed is going to be the first one I want to talk about. Not really doing a ton this year. Has been able to take on a few extra minutes with Jalen Duren missing a couple games, with Isaiah Stewart missing a few games. But last 2 games, had the monster game against Chicago as a starter, 28 points, 13 boards, 6 assists, 4 steals, a block, 2 threes, followed that up the next game with Isaiah Stewart back, Jalen Duren still out. Went from 31 minutes down to 25, had 10 points, 8 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. Paul Reed was, I think, he was drafted as like a I think he was still outside the top 100 last year because there were so many Joel Embiid question marks, or the idea that he would start next to Joel Embiid. Obviously didn't really, I guess, goodness, was that 2 years ago? That was 2 years ago because he was with the Pistons all of last season. Wow, I'm really throwing that back. Okay. But he wasn't great. He had some fine games, but not special. Didn't get a ton of opportunities last year, at a couple okay games in December. But this was a really, really nice stretch for Paul Reed, who's 26. So he's not like still only 26. He's 26, which isn't old. It's not young. It's not old. Exciting to see him play well. I think he's probably still going to be stuck behind Duren and Isaiah Stewart for the most part, but could there be a scenario where maybe on a different team, he's able to take on a larger role and have some success? Sure. I think this was a 2-game stretch that'll be enticing to some other teams. Don't really see him being made a starting center, though. He is under contract for one more season after this one with Detroit. Could there be a team that's interested in trading for him? Maybe. I think a lot of that would be just speculating, though. Interesting to see him play super well, really encouraging, good for him. Not too much actionable here. I think there's not really a quick path for him to be a starting center. Now, long-term injury to Jalen Duren, that's encouraging. Probably more of like a single season impact, though, than something that's going to alter what we do in dynasty leagues. And I think the next one I'll say is I feel a little bit more confident in Daniss Jenkins, the other Piston I wanted to talk about, because this one's fun because I don't remember if I mentioned it in a podcast this summer. I'm pretty sure I tweeted about him a little bit, but I really, really enjoyed Daniss Jenkins in Summer League. When undrafted in 2024, played in 7 games last year. Barely any minutes. Like, let's see, season high for minutes last year was 3.5. Like, just didn't really have a role. Really thought he did well in Summer League as both a scorer and a playmaker on offense, especially as a defender. Matched up against Sheppard specifically. Actually, well, let me go ahead and pull the Summer League numbers. So the game against the Rockets, 23 points, 6 assists, 2 steals, a block, 3 threes. Phenomenal game. Had another, I guess, a 16 and 10 point assist, double-double. A couple other solid games. So really, really liked what I saw from Daniss Jenkins over the summer. Now he comes in. Cade Cunningham misses 2 games. And he has, before that, comes off the bench, plays 34 minutes, 24 points, 8 boards, 3 assists, 4 steals, 4 threes, moves into the starting lineup with Cade out, 18 points, 4 boards, 12 assists, and 2 steals in 40 minutes. Cade misses another game, 19 points, 3 boards, 8 assists, 1 steal, 5 3-pointers. So I thought he was really good in Summer League. Cool to see that translate. Not trying to be I can scout really well or something. Just saying, like, was cool. On a 2-way deal right now, so wouldn't be shocked if that got moved to a standard deal. Wouldn't be shocked if he stuck around in Detroit. Unfortunately, with Cade and Jaden Ivey there, Sar Thompson there, I don't really see Jenkins turning into a starter unless there's some roster moves. I mean, if he does, like, Cade Cunningham is there, but could be a really solid reserve for a long time, only 24 years old. Could be a nice streaming option as a starter. Maybe he does end up earning a larger deal with a different team because somebody's very impressed by what he's doing right now, and the Pistons can't offer him the same role or can't offer him the same money for the role that they would give him. Really interested to keep an eye on him. He's somebody that I am stashing in or have rostered in multiple Dynasty leagues. I don't remember how many off the top of my head, but yeah, really excited to see what he keeps doing in Detroit. Hopefully he's able to keep being part of the rotation even after Cade is back. All right, next up, let's talk about somebody, well, I just mentioned him a little bit ago because he matched up with Daniss Jenkins over the summer. Sheppard, a little bit more, we'll say, heavily rostered in Dynasty leagues. I'm sure he's not on the waiver wire in any Dynasty leagues. But if we check out our partners at FanDuel, Sheppard is currently 4th in 6-man of the year betting odds, behind Jaime Jaquez, who is currently the leader on FanDuel, AJ Mitchell, Jeremy Grant, then Reed Sheppard, who actually is tied in odds with Onyeka Okongwu, who we all obviously talked about already, and Quentin Grimes. It was a slow start for Reed Sheppard to the season, and by a slow start, I mean he played one game against one of the best defensive teams of all time, and everyone wrote him off. Frankly, I didn't write him off in Dynasty leagues, but was a little bit like in redraft leagues, like, oh, okay, like it's okay that he didn't have a lot of success against the Thunder, but there's some clear weaknesses here that they were able to take advantage of. He was able to respond from those a lot quicker than I imagined he would. Could be that, hey, it was the start of the season, opening night, new network, defending champs, ring night, et cetera, and there was just added emotions, so they were treating it was more like a playoff atmosphere. And so Reed Sheppard got exposed a little bit. But the last 5 games or so, he's been playing really well. We'll take a look. We'll say his last 5 games. So against the Spurs, 16 points, 6 assists, 4 threes, then 16 points, 2 assists, 4 steals, a block, 4 threes, then 21, 3, 3, 2, 1 with 5 threes, 13, 3, 3, 4 with 3 threes, 16, 7, 2, 1 with 2 threes. Hopefully, just in case someone's listening and doesn't follow that type of terminology quick. So it'd be like points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks is the order I just set everything in. So 16, 7, 2, 1 would be 16.7 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal. Just throwing that out there just in case. Hopefully I haven't been using that and nobody knows what I'm talking about and everybody's just been really confused for a long time. So hopefully that hasn't been the case, but over the course of the season, for what it's worth, his strict 9-cat value, he's 65th per basketball monster. Really strong source of threes, steals, hasn't had too many turnover issues. I think he had 3 in 2 games, but other than that, hasn't been bad. Everything else is solid to fine. The rebounds, but nobody's counting on him for rebounds anyway. But Reed Sheppard really starting to figure things out on offense. I think with no Fred VanVleet, having Reed Sheppard be an impactful floor spacer in a reserve role is going to help make up for that loss. He's not going to replace Fred VanVleet, but if he's knocking down open shots, it can open up things a lot offensively. They obviously have a bunch of other really high-level defenders. Reed Sheppard is a really high-level defensive playmaker. Gets a lot of steals, can get blocks, despite being an undersized guard. So he's figuring things out. If there was a buy low period on Reed Sheppard, it's passed. It's going to be difficult to trade for Reed Sheppard at this point. Has a bright future, still only 21 years old, just has to work on his three-point celebration a little bit. Next up, let's see, we've got 4 other players to talk about. We will next talk about Peyton Pritchard, who is starting to figure things out in Boston. It was a adjustment period for him. Like last year, he took this dramatic leap, and it was really exciting to see. Just became the best 6th man in basketball. Now he's a starter. And defenses don't have Jason Tatum to focus on. Drew Holiday's gone. Kristaps Porzingis is gone. Derek White and Jaylen Brown are still there, but there's a lot more emphasis placed on this starting point guard. So he hasn't shot the ball quite as well. Last 2 games, though, big win over Memphis, 24 points. This is the second night of a back-to-back as well after 2 straight rough games for him. On the road, came back home, 24 points, 6 boards, 9 assists, 5 threes. Followed that up a few days later, 30 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, and 8 threes. He had one other 5 3-pointer game earlier this month. But other than that, those were the best shooting performances of the season for him. So is this Peyton Pritchard from now on averaging 30 points per game? No. But it is, hey, he's starting to hit shots again because he's been shooting the ball worse than he ever has in his career. So, yeah, it took him some time to adjust to being a starter in the NBA, not just a reserve playing starters minutes that was allowed to run wild and shoot as much as he wanted. So this was good to see from Peyton Pritchard, to see him get on track. There was a little bit of a buy low period there to start the season where he was still playing a lot, but he wasn't hitting shots, and maybe people were like, maybe this guy can't be a starter. I think he can. The thing for Dynasty Leagues is that he'll turn 28 this year. So, I mean, relative to other players, he may not be able to be a really long-term option, but heck, I think he can still have another solid 4 or 5 seasons. But it's difficult to track how long players are going to have success, in my opinion. Like, injuries are factors that impact things, but some players just flame out. I'm not saying that is Peyton Pritchard. I don't know why I'm getting into that rant. So, yeah. Excited to see him playing well again. Where did I have him preseason? That's something else, another data point I can have. 88th. I don't think with what we've seen so far that I would be able to move him much higher or lower. Let's see. Next up, we're going to stay in Boston because Jordan Walsh is starting. Replace Josh Minot, which, I mean, we can call this a little 2-for-1. Not loving that for Minot. Excited about this for Jordan Walsh. Former 5-star, had a really rough season at Arkansas. Ended up slipping to the second round in the draft in 2023. Pretty similar, not play style, but situation to Nick Smith Jr., who was another 5-star, went to Arkansas, struggled, went late first round. Jordan Walsh just went a little later. Walsh, not a great shooter, but high-level defender, athletic player, and he's been able to showcase that defense over the last handful of games. And I think this season was, like, in my mind, like, okay, he's going to get an opportunity this year with all these injuries. Good opportunity for Minot as well, and I think that both of them will continue to get that over the course of the year. Just had 3 steals and we'll say 6 points, 8 boards, 3 assists, 3 steals, and a block against the Clippers. First start was against Memphis. Only played 18 minutes, but big win. Had 2 blocks there, 7.6 boards. So not too much to not too much of a conclusion. We can't draw too much of a conclusion. That's what I'm trying to say. Based on what we've seen from him so far, because it's pretty limited. But I would say to stash him. I am stashing him in multiple leagues where I can. I think he's worth it. I think he's a high-level defender. I think he can be part of the rotation next year. I think it's a good year for him to finally get the opportunity. He's a player I like. I think he's really talented, really good defensively, fits into what they want to do in Boston. 2 more players to talk about. Zach Edey made his regular season debut. And does anyone have worse luck than Memphis? I think, okay, maybe New Orleans has an argument. There's a couple teams that have an argument. But John Morant now expected to miss, and I think it was reevaluated in 2 weeks. I think that was the terminology. Reevaluated in 2 weeks. Grade 1, right calf strain. Not ideal, but hopefully they'll get Ty Jerome back soon. Vince Williams Jr. will be starting at point guard. So I like Vince Williams, but I don't think that's like the best case scenario for Zach Edey. Played just under 25 minutes. First game back, immediately started. I would assume that his minutes go up, but probably not by a ton. 13.7 boards, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Yeah, I'd say that's about what I expected. Maybe not quite as many steals. Don't really expect steals from him, but great. Effective from the free throw line. Cool. But I think the most encouraging thing was, and I think it was just 1 rep. Maybe it was 2. I'm trying to remember. Watching Zach Edey guard Donovan Mitchell on the perimeter was encouraging. I think that was basically my main question mark about Zach Edey, was like it is with other bigs, like how effectively will he be able to switch out on the perimeter and guard guards? Not because I think that you can't play if you can't do that, but does, come playoff time, that happen? And we see what happened to Rudy Gobert, who's one of the best defenders of the past, we'll say like one of the best defenders of the past decade. I think that's a very fair, uncontroversial statement. But if you can get exposed if you're not able to guard on the perimeter, or at least effectively switch out and not give up a bucket every time, can stay in front a little bit, make a shot difficult, which Rudy Gobert was able to, and Luka still hit it. I digress. I think that was 2 years ago now. A lot of references to 2 seasons ago for me today, apparently. But yeah, good to see him back on the floor. I think not having Ja healthy is not ideal. Like really, the timing could not have been worse. So hopefully Ja's able to come back and be healthy the rest of the season. But I think having Ty Jerome, eventually Scottie Pippen Jr., there are other things that will be able to help Zach Edey or other players to be able to get him some pretty good looks. So excited to see how his season progresses. And the last player I want to talk about is Max Christie. Believe his move into the starting lineup lined up with Anthony Davis being ruled out, and AD is expected to miss at least another week. So Max Christie's been able to start for the past, almost a month. Has Anthony Davis really been out that long, or am I totally flubbing this right now? Maybe he's just been out that long. Well, now I feel like hopefully this loads quicker. Okay, so I guess that's not exactly true. But he moved into the starting lineup right before Anthony Davis went down. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. Because AD played on October 29th against the Pacers, but that's when he got hurt. And Christie moved into the starting lineup on the 27th against the Thunder. Okay, cool. But first 2 games of the season, scored 9 points in each of those. Then has scored double figures every single game since then. Multiple threes in most of those. Rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. Like, good year so far for him. Averaging 12.9 points, 3.6 boards, 2.7 assists, half a steal, half a block, 2.7 threes. Really solid start for him. Still 22 years old. Obviously, he was part of the Luka Anthony Davis swap. I hope that he gets the chance to continue starting. But I think maybe that's the thing is, I guess I could go back and see when he started. Okay, so that was no Gafford or Lively in that game. That's what it was. And now that Lively's now out again. Dallas also has really bad injury luck. So those, we'll say top 3 bad luck right now is no order: New Orleans, Dallas, and Memphis. But yeah, really like what Max Christie has done. Let me see where I had him preseason. 170-70. I think that's fair. I'd probably have him about there again. Moving him up at least 1 spot because it looks like I had Bradley Beal at 176 and he's going down. So Max Christie at least 1 spot higher is my official ranking for him. But yeah, I think he's a effective long-term starter, whether that be in Dallas or elsewhere, but I don't know that he doesn't have like the same level of upside, but still a enticing, intriguing player that's played well. I think he's worth recognizing. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Young Man Squad Fantasy Basketball Podcast, which is part of the Old Man Squad Sports Network, part of the Believe Network, and presented to you by our partners at FanDuel. Hopefully more episodes this week. Definitely a rookie report. Hopefully another week recap. We'll just kind of see what happens. Anything you want to see, feel free to find me on Twitter at NoUrban22. You can also tag me in Dynasty or even redraft questions that you have. Happy to answer those, and you'll find a lot more responses from me there than you will in the comments of this video. But if you made it this far to the point where you're still listening, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Would very much so appreciate that. But that's going to do it for this one, and I will see you guys next time.